All right, Lo. We're live, man, and we are both in the southern hemisphere. Each of us in Brazil in scattered locations, but we're getting ready for this game on Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific kick. It's going to be 9 p.m. local time. How's your trip been so far, brother?
It's been great, man. A little travel, though. I got kind of stuck in Miami one extra day. I didn't like it, but you know what? I made up for it when I got here. So it's been beautiful. Can't wait. The game, exciting. So many fans are here from Kansas City as well as Charger fans, and staying here at the Hilton here, and guys are just raving about this game, and everyone's asking me, "What do you think? What are you and Money thinking? What are you guys thinking?" It's like, hey, that's why you play the game. And tomorrow night, kickoff. It's going to be exciting, sold out game, and it's going to be interesting just being another country playing in the National Football League.
Yeah, I mean, they can ask us what we think. I can tell you what FanDuel thinks. And a big thank you to FanDuel for sponsoring us. We appreciate them and all that they do for us. They got the Chiefs favored by 3, and that's not surprising. I mean, I'm going through the game notes, and obviously the first thing that jumps out at you is the Chiefs have knocked off the Chargers 7 times in a row. They are 51-9 against the AFC West in their last 60 games.
Wow.
51-9. The interesting wrinkle. So, of course, they should be favored, even though it's a designated Charger home game here in Sao Paulo. It's that makes sense. The one thing that jumped out at me though, FanDuel wise, is they've got the over under at 46.5, and I think you go back to those 2 games last year, Low, and I'm not saying they're going to be replicated. There's certainly a lot more weapons on the Chargers side of things. Lad McConkey did not play in one of those games. J.K. Dobbins did not play in one of those games. They rushed 24 times for 55 yards in one of those games. I do not anticipate that to be the case. So at the same time, it just seems like Spags has really been able to control this run game of the Chargers since he took over as DC. He's not afraid of those explosives. He has shown that time and time again. I'd be very surprised if he adjusted anything on that front. So maybe 46.5 is a little bit high. They held the Chiefs last year to 19 points in one game and 17 points in another. They've been real defensive, grinded out struggles, with Harbaugh and Reed and their little dance they did last year.
Yeah, they really have. And my biggest thing is the first one to 21. I think the first team to get 21, I think they win this game. Like you just alluded to, what Spags does from Kansas City, their defense, they're going to keep things in front of you. They don't give up a lot of big plays. The Chargers play the same type of defense with Mentor and those guys do. You know, he wants to come after you, and they bend but don't break. So you're going to have two teams that I think that are, pretty much equally matched. You got to give Kansas City the edge, of course. And but this game for me is simple. Who's going to make the least amount of mistakes? I think when all
Yeah.
things it comes down to don't make mistakes, don't turn the ball over.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think there's sort of a caveat to that, right? And for me, it's Patrick Mahomes has made mistakes. He has thrown interceptions against this team. Remember last year, that first game, they jumped out to a 10-0 lead. Fumble on the Chiefs' first drive, interception on the second drive, cash it in for 10 points. So that's good. Unfortunately, they got nothing the rest of the way. But that to me is sort of the key for this offense. Mahomes is, and they've been telling us all off season, and I don't think they're trying to tell us into tricking us and saying we want to be more explosive. I mean, they drafted Xavier Worthy last year. They traded for Hollywood Brown, or they signed Hollywood Brown. Like they want to push this ball downfield, and I think what that means is balls are going to be available, And this team did a really good job last year of converting explosive opportunities for the offense into defensive opportunities via turnover interceptions. And they have to do that. Mahomes is going to put it up there. And I think, again, if you're Loie Gilman, if you're Elijah Molden, if you're Tarheeb Still or Dante Jackson, who, of course, had all those interceptions last year, signed as a free agent, obviously Derwin, I think you got to make them pay. Like that's always been a key to this team is if they're going to give you a freebie, you got to make sure they pay for it.
Oh, no question. And I think the Kansas City, you look last year, they won in spite of Mahomes. Mahomes did not have necessarily a great year. Like you said, they the offense sputtered. They weren't consistent on offense. It wasn't like Kansas City used to be, okay, Kansas City, you got to try to score at least 30 to beat Kansas City. That's no more. And now Kansas City, they're trying to get back on the other side of that because of the fact they put so much pressure on Spags and that defense and Jones and the rest of those guys to make plays. And that's why they were able to limp into the Super Bowl last year, is because their defense played lights out. Their
Yeah.
defense played pretty amazing. You talked about, alluded to that San Diego, the Chargers game. in LA rather, the first opening up, and you saw the Chargers jumped on them and had a chance to put the game away in the fourth quarter of first and goal from the 2 yard line and ended up going backwards and wasn't able to score. That was a defining moment that cost the Chargers that ball game. So we know Kansas City can be very stubborn, especially when it comes to the red zone. How is Herbert in this offense going to perform in the red zone? Because you saw it last year, we saw it. They struggled and struggled bad running the ball in the red zone
Yeah.
to pick up, convert 2 yards, 3 yards for a touchdown. It's hard when you can't score from 5 yards in the red zone or in goal line. That's tough. That's it. It puts your defense in a tough situation. So I think this Chargers team is going to be a little bit more explosive. I know last year was okay. Let's run the ball, play action. Don't Herbert's. I think that you're going to have to cut him loose again this year because you don't want to keep the game close because we know Kansas City. They have found ways to win games, close games. The Chargers have not been in that situation where they beat Kansas City in a close game. So I think if you can jump on them like you do and then play from ahead and stay more aggressive and continue to pound the ball, I think that you have a great chance of winning this ball game because you upgraded. You and I both know that the Chargers have upgraded tremendously in the run game.
That's the key for me, Lo, is, they've had leads in the fourth quarter in 5 of these 7 consecutive losses. And the biggest issue has just been the inability to run the 4 minute drill. And I think, you can speak to it better than I can, but they can say it all they want that, oh, we don't care about the past, we're looking forward. But when you got leads in 5 games in the fourth quarter and Justin Herbert has put the team on his back and has scored that go ahead, has run that go ahead drive to give him a lead, and then you're punting with 4 or 6 minutes left and you can't get the ball back, or you've got the lead and you've got the ball and all you got to do is pick up 1 or 2 first downs, like that's just been the problem. And so the last thing you said, the running game, that's why they remade that room, I think, is even though JK had a solid season last year, I think it was a little bit misleading because there wasn't a lot of consistency, carry in, carry out. It was like an explosive that added to those numbers, in a couple different games where he had a big explosive, like a 50 or a 60 type yard run that really kind of skewed what the numbers were. So now I think with the horses and, coach is talking about Najee Harris being a great receiver and how they need to get the backs more involved. And man, how much did we talk about that last year? You have got to
Yeah.
get these backs involved in the passing game. And so he didn't come out, Najee's still on the injury report. So he didn't come out and say it. He did say that Omarian's going to be the starter, but he did say, look, Najee's, I'm excited about getting Najee involved in the passing game. And so now think about that running attack they're going to have this year. You've got Omarion, how explosive he is at 6 foot, 220 pounds. You've got Hassan Haskins at 235 pounds and Najee at 6 foot, 240 pounds. That's a much different looking rush attack. And I'm anxious to see if they can finally get that thing going to open up the passing game and to run some 4 minute drill if they got a lead again in the fourth quarter to pick up a first down.
No question. And we know the Steelers last couple of years, Najee was that guy that was a closer. It's four
Yeah.
yards of cloud of dust. The guy does run hard. He's big back. He's one cut north and south. And we want to see, does he help bring that offense the finishing touch? We want to see this offense and this team finish. That's been the biggest thing. Fourth quarter, like you talked about, just letting it elude you, get away from you. Can they finish? Can they finish a 4 minute drive, convert 2 first downs, keep the clock going, and never let Mahomes back on the field? Because we know it. It's a matter of time with Mahomes. And teams start, okay, you got 2 minutes, and okay, you got to play some prevent. You can't give up the big play. And you just methodically let the team drive down the field. And it gets tough because then guys are holding on, they're reaching, and they're like, God, they get nervous and they haven't, had success. So you just don't want that type of atmosphere. So it'd be great if they can just finish this game with the ball in the hands of the offense, running out the clock and being in a kneeling position. I'm for that, money. I'm for that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking at as I'm looking at my board, getting ready for tomorrow. I mean, Najee in his career is a 4 yard per carry guy. He's a 28 touchdown guy. He's a guy that's caught nearly 200 balls for about 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns there. So yeah, that's what you need. Omarion last year, Omarion in his career at North Carolina, 38 games. You got 640 yards receiving, 4 receiving touchdowns, 73 receptions. He's a guy that averages 6 yards per carry. He averaged over 5 on his 4 carries in the preseason, like that's what we're talking about. Let's get a more consistent. And Hassan Haskins was the best rusher in the preseason. He looked like he was in a different gear all preseason than we saw last year, his first year with him. So to me, I know it's Justin Herbert versus Patrick Mahomes. That's certainly the headliner. And I'll tell you what, man, if you would have seen that presser with Justin Herbert and the amount of, it was over 100 people, international media, that were there to cover that press conference. I mean, you felt the superstardom. You felt like, oh yeah, this is one of the premier players in the NFL. This is one of the faces of the National Football League. I think we kind of forget it because he's with us week in and week out. But that was a pretty big deal to kind of take that in, to see that, and to see Coach Harbaugh, obviously, a superstar in his own right. So, to me, it's yes, that's the headline. And last year, Justin Herbert did not throw the ball much. He did not have Ladd McConkey for one of those games, but in the two games combined, he passed for less than 400 yards combined. Did
Yeah,
not throw an interception, but so to me, I think that tells you that we're trying to get this run game going. Can we get things opened up? And it wasn't there last year. And now I feel like they've really upgraded on the offensive side in terms of this particular matchup against the Chiefs and what they want to do. I feel a lot better about what they have to offer.
oh, so do I. And this is a situation when you think about when you see a guy, Josh Allen, you see Mahomes, they go at it. And everyone knows that Josh Allen doesn't necessarily blink, and he's beaten Mahomes head to head at time or two. Mahomes gotten the better of him. But you watch another guy, Joe Burrows. It's like he goes in there and he pretty much he has Mahomes' number. He doesn't back down. He loves the competition. He thrives on it. It's time, and I think Money is saying with tongue in cheek and no disrespect to Justin because we know that the kind of quarterback that he is, it's time for him to do that. It's time for him to say, okay, Mahomes, me and you, and I'm going to
Yeah.
be like the Joe Burrows. Because Joe Burrows, those guys, you know they don't blink. And not saying that Justin Herbert does, but he needs to have a performance where he looks in the eyes of Mahomes and you say, oh my goodness, Justin just took his best shot and won.
Yeah, and look, I think when you look at his early career, right, you see the fourth quarter comebacks. They're all there. It was some of the best numbers for the first three seasons of a career, and for whatever reason, it's just slipped away from him. And I don't know if that's necessarily something. I know the talking heads, because it's a standalone game, and we have the Chiefs and Eagles tonight, as we're recording this on a Thursday afternoon, and we're the standalone game on Friday night. And so obviously it's going to be a talking point, but I do think that he's the face of it. He is the face of why haven't the Chargers won a playoff game in the Justin Herbert era? It's not necessarily it's not necessarily, hey, he's not a good quarterback. It's when are we going to see those pelts on the wall? Justin Herbert,
That's
Patrick
it.
Mahomes trade punches and bang, now I can staple it on there. So I do think that's what, look, that's what everybody wants. And whether or not that's what Coach Harbaugh wants and Coach Minter wants, we know how safe Coach Minter played it last year. He played in that too high shell for the majority of the season. He played quarters coverage for a lot of the season. He went out and got some corners that he thought he could play a little bit more man with. But I still think we're going to see a similar thing. And then that's try to keep everything in front of you, make them beat you with Pacheco, make them methodically move down the field. And unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out. That one game, they only scored 19 points, but they converted 9 of 16 third downs. I mean, so it's kind of a pick your poison with Patrick Mahomes, right? I do think the one thing that's being overlooked a lot is how much of a makeover the tight end room got. And it, wasn't by design last year to look like that. But when Hayden Hurst got hurt in that preseason game, I mean, you're talking about starting guys like Eric Tomlinson. You're asking Will Dissly to be the second leading receiver behind Ladd McConkey on this team. It just kind of got away from him. Tucker Fisk didn't show up till I think week 5 and really didn't have that defined role until later in the season. So now I think you're seeing a much different approach from that room as well, where you're going to get those Will Dissly and Tucker Fisk and Scott Matlock. You can call it 22, you can call it 13, whatever you want to call it. But I do think you're going to see some more of that as well. And now you have a sure-handed pass-catching tight end in Tyler Conklin. They did not have that last year. Will Dissly did a heck of a job, but you didn't have what they thought was going to be a 600-yard, 5-touchdown, 50 reception Hayden Hurst. That guy did not exist. And so to me, that's another big deal, especially in how it can impact the running game, especially with the loss of Rashawn Slater, is how those tight ends and the way they're going to deploy that formation, against Spags, who pretty much down in, down out had five guys on the line of scrimmage, and they weren't just rushing the passer, they were setting the edge, and he was making sure, because he wasn't afraid of going that, he was just not afraid of this team's offense doing any damage downfield. So you got to punish him with that running game so those explosives can open up.
No question. Just the overachieved last year. You talked about it. This guy, here's a guy that overachieved, caught passes, did a lot of things that he was forced into do and taking a role. And he stood up and he played well. And like you're saying, here's a guy that usually you're not asking him to do that. If he has to be the one of the leading receiver for your team, you're in trouble. And it's no slap to Will Disley because this is a great blocker, but we know who he is. And you have upgraded tremendously in that room. Disley still, yes, he make some big catches, absolutely. But now he doesn't have to. The pressure is not going to be on him as much, so he can get run game, blocking game, do other things that he does well. And I like the matchup. You did totally upgrade at the tight end as well as the running back. The whole running back room is different. Your first and second string running back last year, they're not even on the team. You have to realize this is a whole different running back room. It's a whole different, tight end. You got better. You upgraded. Got a pass catching tight end that can catch the ball. You have guys that you know now that doesn't have to put all the pressure on those guys that were in situations that had to make plays. I think another thing, what this does, money, is who needs this game? I think that the Chargers, I think Kansas City, we know who Kansas City is. The Chargers for their psyche, for the beginning of the year, like you talked about, your primetime game Friday night, the country gets to see. You're playing against the Super Bowl, 1 year removed from winning the Super Bowl, but runner-up in the Super Bowl last year. So you're playing against a team that all eyes know Kansas City is the cream of the crop in the AFC. No matter what, there's the Bills, there's the Bengals, we know there's the Ravens, but it's still Kansas City's AFC. We know that. So this is a huge menacing stick for the Chargers.
Yeah, and I think because you start the season with three divisional games, right? And not to mention, look, this team started training camp in what, early July, mid-July. They had a Hall of Fame game in July, four preseason games, had to fly to Sao Paulo, Brazil. They're going to go home and have to fly to Vegas for a Monday nighter against the Raiders. They're going to have to, fly to New York 2 weeks later for a 10 a.m. Pacific. Like, to me, it really sets the tone. If you get out of this by beating the Chiefs and snapping a 7-game losing streak, that just goes a long way. And I look, if they lose, big deal. It's one game. You got 16 more to play. They got swept by the Chiefs last year. Still figured out how to win 11 games, get into the tournament, and unfortunately, just were not firing on all cylinders. Weren't healthy on the offensive line. Didn't have a run game working at all, and it got away from them. But I do think it would go a long way to set a tone for the rest of the season if you can finally get out of this funk against this team that's knocked you off 7 straight times, especially when you've had the lead in the fourth quarter on 5 separate occasions, and you have this winning mentality of Coach Harbaugh and this physical, like, they talked and they preached it last year, and I feel like the defense delivered, on their side of the ball with their physically imposing approach to a game, with Poona Ford on the interior of that line, with Khalil Mack setting the edge, with Deion Henley and Derwin James at that level of the field, with Derwin as the big nickel. And so I think it's up to the offense now with this personnel, with Mekhi Becton, who was added, with the tight ends that were added, with the running backs that were added, to see that vision come together. And look, you want to see a vision come together, think about finding that nugget like late in a fantasy football draft, your 13th, 14th rounder that ends up delivering you a championship. Well, think of ZipRecruiter as that type of outlet. ZipRecruiter has an opportunity for you to find that special person that's going to help your business. You get a ton of resumes, not enough candidates that you've been looking for with the right skills or the experience. ZipRecruiter finds those candidates for you, and they do it fast. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/audio. Post your job immediately. And what ZipRecruiter is going to do is use their smart technology to identify the top talent for your roles quickly with their powerful matching technology. that will take care of that for you, and you will find it ASAP. You can use ZipRecruiter's pre-written invite to apply message to personally reach out. So again, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first days. Ditch the other hiring sites. Let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for, that needle in the haystack. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/audio. That's ziprecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And Lo, as I said, physicality. Who better to focus in on that than you?
Yeah, the question I was having, Money, when you're talking about ZipRecruiter and talking about what type of quality they bring, what is going to be a key? What kind of effort do you think it's going to take from defense? Let's just talk defensive side of the ball against Kansas City. Take that Travis Kelsey, the ageless wonder, what they do at the 12 personnel. They have 2 tight ends that can catch the ball. You know what they have in Worthy, receiver. What kind of effort do you think it's going to take from this defense and what's in store for them?
Well, I think, the one thing you always have to be careful of, especially when it's a tie game, is basically, containing Patrick Mahomes. He had a huge 10-yard run in that second game, I think it was, to extend the game and to extend the drive, I should say, that ended up closing it out with that game-winning field goal. So to me, that's the most important thing is here's a guy that doesn't run around a lot, but when he does against the Chargers, it seems to be for high leverage, incredible sort of moment in the moment of the game results that typically tilted in the Kansas City Chiefs' favor. So I think that's number one. What else do you have to do is look, if you're going to put that 2 shell up high, then you're going to have to stop Isaiah Pacheco because they will run it, and they've shown that they're comfortable doing that. That Patrick Mahomes is comfortable doing that, and so to me, that's the other part of it is testing that new front, the new front without Poona Ford. They said they weren't going to be able to replace him with one player, but they were going to have to throw multiple bodies at it. And we saw that with the final 53. I mean, I'm looking at all 6 of them right here. They're all in the 90s, 90, 91, 92, 93, 96, 99. Tier Tart, Deshaun Hand, Justin Aboigbe, Tito Abonia, Naquan Jones, and Jamari Caldwell. They all made the team for a reason. I thought they were the best performing unit of any unit on either side of the ball in the preseason. And so I think it starts up front. They sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times in those 2 games last year. So, without Joey Bosa, with Thule no longer having the special teams, snaps on his plate, to be a full-time pass rusher and edge with Khalil, and then rotating in those other 2 and Caleb Murphy and Bud Dupree. I think that's going to be important as well because they were able to get to him and make him uncomfortable. They got a rookie left tackle. I know he's well regarded. Looks like he's overcome that injury that caused him to slide in the draft. Otherwise, he would have been the number 1 left tackle in Josh Simmons in the draft. But make him prove it. Let's see him stop the bull rush of Khalil Mack. So I think it probably starts up front, and then of course we know Derwin's going to make a big play, whether he's stuck on Kelsey or what he's doing. He always makes big plays in these Chiefs games, Low.
Yeah, yeah, I can't wait to watch Derwin James. I know you love this guy and what he does. You can put him, he's a nickel, he's a big nickel guy, can come down, play in the box, he can play against the run. We saw last year, this guy came off the edge, had sacks, he was in there backfield. He's a guy can pass rush, knows how to beat running backs, can beat even some linemen at times, getting back to the quarterback because he's a big physical safety. So he brings a lot to the table. So can't wait to see what he does. Can't wait to see these linebackers fly around and make plays. Don't limit Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that you can limit them to set. I think that it's possible and it's very probable that you can keep them under 70 yards. If you can keep them under 70 yards, in my opinion, and you rush for 100, I think if the Chargers can run for 100 yards plus, I think they win this ball game. That's what it's going to come down to me. If Patrick can have 200, 300 yards passing, if you keep them under 70 yards, that means they're just throwing the ball over the field. I understand that, but I don't think they get in. I don't think they score. So it's not. I think running when you control running game and a team can't run the ball and they're ineffective, they're averaging 2 or 3 yards a carry. It's hard. That's a tough out. That's a tough out that you're asking. So if the Chargers can do that, I think this is a game that they can find a way to win, even though it's on the road, even though you're playing against the AFC champions. I think you can find a way to win this ball game.
Yeah, and last year it's not that. Look, last year they were great in terms of scoring defense, right? They were great in the red zone. They were solid on third down. they did let up some yards, and so I think that's one thing to keep in mind is that it's not like they were able to put the clamps on offenses. They were just able to do it in the most important parts of the field. So I think it goes back to those sort of six names that I was talking about, the interior of that line, and whether or not they're able to, like you said, if you're going to play to limit the explosives of Mahomes, and you're going to have to ask those guys are going to have to deliver in order to prevent that, because we've just seen it too often where whether it's been Pacheco or Clyde Edwards-Helaire or whoever it may be, the Chiefs have just found a way to to get enough, to get just enough. And Spags has shown the ability. I think about there was a time, what might have been like 2, 3 years ago, where they finally got the stop they needed. Right? They instead of running a 4-minute drill, they force a punt with a couple minutes left. All the Chargers need is a field goal, and Spags just dials up three bang bang bang, zero blitzes, and they weren't ready for it, and the game was over. And so I think kind of going back to one of your original points, Lo, that you know, with the Justin Herbert thing, I think that's also a Greg Roman thing. Like, that wasn't Greg Roman. Now that was Joe Lombardi, I think. But yeah, you've got to be ready. Like you've got to. Everybody has got to have. Everyone's got to be in that position to execute when the game is on the line, because it's just foolish to think that this thing's going to be anything but that. These two teams do not blow each other out, and so execution is
Right.
going to be at a premium, and that means play calling is going to be at a premium.
Yeah, and that's why, money. I think we were saying the same thing, but I think you'll agree here is it's complementary football. You can't ask the defense, to offense to go three and out, and the defense is back on the field because you're putting yourself. You're not playing complementary football, and you're putting your defense out on the field. What does this Charger team do? We know they like to rotate guys in and out. You can't offensively, you can't stop. You have to play complementary football. Offense gets a long drive. Hey, look, you got to go out there in defense and try to anchor, make a turnover, get a stop so you can give the ball back to Justin Herbert. The more opportunities you give your offense, the more opportunities you have to score. And that's both these two offenses. Because if you give Mahomes ample amount of time, sooner or later he's going to make you pay for it. So you have to sustain some drives offensively by running the ball, wearing out Kansas City's front. And we don't know Jones is one of the elite pass rushers, elite run stopper, but he's getting a little older. You have to beat those guys up. You got to make sure that you wear them out. And how do you do that? By running the ball and making you play physical defense and play physical offense. Third down, another key. It's third down. The Chargers have to win third down. You have to keep Kansas City third or five or more. They just say, okay, now I can come after him. Now I don't have to sit back in sub zone. I can bring one extra guy. He's got to get rid of the ball, and you stop him out the sticks. Third down is going to be a premium. You can't let this Kansas City sustain drives on your defense. So I think third down is big. Complementary football, I'm talking about this offense have to convert. They have to run the ball. They have to put Kansas City on the defensive and put their defense against the wall and wear them out. That's how you win these games.
Yeah, that's how you delete the Chiefs from the AFC West champion ranks, which they have been, like we said, for the last since 2016, 9 years in a row. They have won the AFC West with a 51-9 record over that span. Let's talk about delete me. Make it easy, quick, safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. How does it work? Data brokers make a profit off of your data. Your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details, and that leads to identity theft, could lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, harassment. Protect your privacy with Delete Me. Brokers are going to share and could share your contact info, your social security info, your home address, even information about other family members. All of that could be compiled by data brokers and sold online. New York Times Wirecutter named Delete Me their top pick for data removal services. I have had my identity stolen. It sucks. It was a nightmare. I nearly had to go to court over it because somebody had tried to take out a mortgage. You do not want to deal with that. Delete Me helps you, and they can help you take control of your data, keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners, you get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting PRO, P-R-O, to 64,000. That's PRO to 64000. The only way to get 20% off is to text PRO to 64,000. That's PRO to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. Well, I mean, we're here, Lo. I got nothing else. I think we've kind of covered it. It's run the ball. It's contain Patrick Mahomes. It's if he gives you those opportunities at turnovers, take advantage of them. I do think special teams could come into play. And when they made their 53-man roster, you saw guys like Jaw Taylor, Caleb Murphy, obviously is an edge who's got a bit, Hassan Haskins, all, Ray, geez, who am I thinking of? Mickens, the rookie, like all of those guys had big special teams, have a big special teams presence. And I think that it very well could come down to it again, because it did last year at zeros. Remember when the backup kicker for the Chiefs, because Butker was out, ended up doinking that thing through for a 19-17 win. So all three phases, execution. They didn't turn the ball over those last two games, and they darn near won them. But darn near won them is something we've been preaching now for about 4 years.
Absolutely. That's going to come down to, like you said, it's going to be down to the wire. First 121 wins this game. I think the Chargers, you're talking about, you're not going to lose eight straight. I just really believe they're going to find a way to get this thing done. They're going to win this game 21-17. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't see these teams lighting it up. They play too well at defense. They're coached too well. They bend, but they don't break. It's imperative that the Chargers play complementary football. That's going to be the key to success. Run the ball, don't win the turnover battle, and win field position on special teams. That's what's going to come down tomorrow night, Monday. Can't wait to see these guys get it on.
I'm with you, man. Let's get a win, have a nice flight back from Brazil, all 12 and a half hours of it, and get ready for the Raiders on Monday night with a 1-0 record. Certainly appreciate you hopping on here, Lo, even though you're down here entertaining a whole bunch of people. Appreciate all the people that watched and listened and continue to review and rate. And we'll be back next week from a much more stable location with much better internet and all that sort of stuff. It's been a bit of a challenge out here, so we'll try to get all that right next week as we're talking about a big Charger victory over the Chiefs. Until then, believe in Chargers and bolt up.
Bolt up.